My child, stop for a moment and listen carefully. Do not scroll away. Do not tell yourself you will come back to this message later, because what I am about to tell you cannot wait. This message is reaching you at a very specific moment, and deep down your spirit already knows it. For weeks, perhaps months, perhaps even years, you have carried a burden that few people truly understand. You smiled when others were watching. You said, "I'm okay," when people asked. You kept moving forward because you felt you had no other choice. But inside, you have been fighting battles nobody could see. You have questioned yourself. You have questioned your future. You have even questioned whether I was still working in your life. And because nothing seemed to change, because the answers did not arrive when you expected them, because the doors remained closed longer than you thought they should, many people quietly came to a conclusion about you. They looked at your delays. They looked at your struggles. They looked at your disappointments. And they decided your story was over. They assumed the best days of your life were already behind you. They assumed the opportunities had passed. They assumed the dreams were dead. They assumed you had reached the end of what I could do through you. But my child, they were wrong. Completely wrong. Because while they were looking at what was visible, I was working in places they could not see. While they were counting your setbacks, I was arranging your steps. While they were measuring your losses, I was preparing your restoration. While they were writing the ending of your story, I was still writing new chapters. And that is why you must pay attention today, because something has already begun to move. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now. You may not see it yet. You may not understand it yet. You may not have any evidence of it yet. But that does not change the truth. The seed begins growing long before anyone sees it break through the soil. The dawn begins arriving long before the first ray of sunlight appears. And in the same way, I have already begun moving in areas of your life that seem completely unchanged. That feeling you have been carrying lately, that strange sense that something is about to shift, that quiet expectation you cannot fully explain. It is not your imagination. It is not wishful thinking. It is not coincidence. My spirit has been preparing your heart for what is coming, because very soon, the people who counted you out will be forced to reconsider everything they believed about you. The people who thought you would never recover. The people who thought you would never rise again. The people who assumed your best opportunities were gone forever. They are about to discover something they never expected. But before I reveal more, you need to understand why the enemy has fought you so fiercely, why the attacks became so intense, why the waiting became so long, why the discouragement seemed relentless. Because there is something about your future that has terrified the enemy from the very beginning. And in the next few moments, I want you to hear this with an open heart, because once you understand what has truly been happening behind the scenes, you will never look at your struggles the same way again. My child, have you ever wondered why some seasons of your life seemed unusually difficult? Why certain battles lasted far longer than they should have? Why every time you tried to move forward, something appeared to stand in your way? There is a reason, and it is not because I have forgotten you. It is not because I have abandoned you, and it is certainly not because you are unworthy of my blessings. The truth is much deeper than that. The enemy does not waste his energy on people he believes are powerless. He does not launch his strongest attacks against those who pose no threat to his plans. Think about that for a moment. The intensity of the resistance you faced is not proof of your weakness. It is evidence of your potential. The enemy saw something in your future long before you did. He saw the healing that could come through your testimony. He saw the people you would encourage. He saw the lives you would touch. He saw the chains you would break. And because he could not stop the purpose I placed inside you, he tried something else. He tried to convince you to stop yourself. That is why the attacks often came through discouragement. That is why disappointment seemed to arrive at the worst possible moments. That is why fear whispered to you late at night, not because those voices were telling the truth, but because lies become powerful when repeated long enough. The enemy knew he could not destroy the calling I placed upon your life, so he tried to make you doubt it. He knew he could not steal the promise, so he tried to make you walk away from it. He knew he could not change what I had spoken over your future, so he tried to convince you that I had never spoken at all. My child, listen carefully. Some of the greatest battles in your life were never about your present circumstances. They were about your future. The enemy was reacting to something that had not happened yet. He was fighting against blessings that had not yet arrived. He was resisting doors that had not yet opened. He was attacking possibilities that you could not yet see, and that is why there were moments when the pressure felt so overwhelming, because the battle was bigger than what was visible. But here is what the enemy failed to understand. Every delay taught you endurance. Every disappointment taught you wisdom. Every setback taught you dependence on me. What was intended to break you has been building you. What was intended to weaken you has been strengthening you. What was intended to stop you has been preparing you. You thought you were merely surviving, but all along, you were being trained. You thought you were being buried, but I was planting you. You thought everything was falling apart, but I was putting everything into place. And now, my child, the season is beginning to change. The lessons of the waiting season are not being wasted. The tears were not wasted. The prayers were not wasted. The years were not wasted. In fact, you are much closer than you realize to understanding why you had to walk through everything you have endured. Because there is something that many people around you still cannot see. Something hidden, something growing, something being prepared in silence. And in the next part of this message, I want to show you why the people who misunderstood your struggle completely misunderstood your story. My child, one of the most painful experiences you can go through is being misunderstood, not by strangers, but by people who believed they knew you, people who watched your journey, people who saw pieces of your story and assumed they understood the whole picture. They saw the struggle, but they never saw the preparation. They saw the delay, but they never saw the protection. They saw the closed doors, but they never saw the dangers hidden behind them. Many people looked at your life and judged what they could see. That is what human beings often do. They evaluate the visible. They measure appearances. They make conclusions based on temporary circumstances. But I do not work that way. I have never worked that way. When others see an ending, I often see a beginning. When others see weakness, I often see growth. When others see failure, I often see preparation. Think about the seasons when everything seemed to slow down. The opportunities disappeared. The support faded. The excitement vanished. You may have thought something was wrong. You may have wondered why everyone else seemed to be moving ahead while you felt stuck. But what if you were never stuck? What if I was simply working in a place where human eyes could not follow? A tree can spend years growing roots before anyone notices its strength. A builder spends months laying a foundation before a house becomes visible. And in the same way, much of the work I do in a person's life happens beneath the surface. Invisible, quiet, unnoticed. That is why so many people misunderstood your season. They expected visible success, but I was creating invisible strength. They expected immediate results, but I was developing lasting character. They expected rapid promotion, but I was teaching you how to carry the blessing when it arrived. My child, there are things I could have given you years ago, but if I had given them to you then, they might have destroyed you instead of helping you. There are doors I could have opened sooner, but you were not yet prepared for what stood behind them. There are prayers I could have answered immediately, but a delayed blessing is often safer than a premature one. This is something many people fail to understand. They assume waiting means abandonment. They assume silence means absence. They assume delay means denial. But my child, some of my greatest acts of love happen in the waiting. Some of my greatest acts of protection happen through unanswered prayers. Some of my greatest blessings arrive disguised as closed doors. And one day, when you look back, you will see what you cannot fully see now. You will see the accident you never had, the mistake you never made, the wrong relationship you never entered, the disaster you never encountered, the pain you were spared from. You will understand that what felt like rejection was often protection. What felt like delay was often direction. What felt like loss was often rescue. That is why I need you to stop measuring your life by appearances, because appearances can be deceiving. A field looks empty before the harvest. The sky looks dark before sunrise. The seed looks lifeless before it breaks open. And your situation may look unchanged right now, but appearances do not determine reality. My work continues even when you cannot see it. My plans continue even when you cannot understand them. My promises remain true even when circumstances appear to say otherwise. And there is something else you need to understand. The people who doubted you were not just misjudging your present, they were misjudging your future. They looked at where you are. I was looking at where you are going. They saw your wounds. I saw your healing. They saw your struggle. I saw your testimony. They saw your limitations. I saw the purpose I placed inside you before you were even born. That is why you must not build your identity around the opinions of others. People can only judge the chapter they are reading. I see the entire story. People see today's battle. I see tomorrow's victory. People see what is happening around you. I see what is developing within you. And my child, what is developing within you right now is far more important than what is happening around you. Because circumstances change, opinions change, seasons change, but the work I am doing inside your heart has eternal value. You are becoming stronger than you realize, wiser than you realize, more prepared than you realize, and very soon, what has been hidden will begin to emerge. The strength will become visible. The growth will become visible. The preparation will become visible. The same people who assumed nothing was happening will suddenly realize they were watching the wrong thing all along. Because while they were focused on your circumstances, I was transforming you. While they were focused on your setbacks, I was preparing your comeback. While they were focused on your losses, I was building something that could never be taken away. And that brings us to an important moment. Because if this message is speaking to your heart right now, I want you to make a simple declaration of faith, not for me, not for anyone else, but as a reminder to yourself that your story is not over. Type, God is not finished with me. And as you do, prepare your heart for what comes next, because there is a reason your waiting season has lasted longer than expected. And once you understand that reason, everything begins to look different. My child, there is a question that has lived in your heart for a long time. A question you may have asked in moments of frustration. A question you may have whispered through tears. A question you may never have spoken aloud, yet carried deep within your spirit. Why has this taken so long? Why has the answer not come yet? Why has the breakthrough not appeared? Why has the promise remained just out of reach? Why has the waiting lasted far beyond what seemed reasonable? My child, listen carefully, because the answer is not what many people think. The waiting was never punishment. The waiting was never proof that I had forgotten you. The waiting was never evidence that your prayers were being ignored. The waiting was preparation. You see, human beings often become obsessed with arrival. They focus on the destination. They focus on the blessing. They focus on the outcome. But I focus on the person who will receive it. Because receiving a blessing is one thing. Being ready for it is another. Many people ask for increase. Few ask for the wisdom to manage it. Many people ask for opportunity. Few ask for the character to sustain it. Many people ask for influence. Few ask for the maturity to carry it without being destroyed by it. That is why I sometimes work more on the person than on the situation. Because if I change the situation without changing the person, the blessing may become a burden. My child, there are things you prayed for years ago that would have overwhelmed the version of you that existed back then. You did not know it. You could not see it. But I could. You wanted immediate answers. I was building lasting strength. You wanted quick results. I was building deep roots. You wanted the door to open. I was preparing you for what was behind the door. Think about how much you have changed. Think about what you've learned. Think about the lessons you never wanted but desperately needed. The disappointments taught you discernment. The betrayals taught you wisdom. The delays taught you patience. The hardships taught you endurance. The lonely seasons taught you dependence on me. And while none of those lessons felt pleasant in the moment, each one was shaping the person you are becoming. Because I was never preparing a blessing for you, I was preparing you for the blessing. That is a difference many people never understand. A farmer does not curse the season when seeds are underground. A builder does not abandon a project because the foundation is invisible. A sculptor does not quit because the masterpiece has not yet appeared. They understand something important. The hidden stages matter, and much of your journey has been a hidden stage. Others saw inactivity. I saw development. Others saw delay. I saw preparation. Others saw nothing happening. I saw thousands of small changes occurring beneath the surface. Changes in your mindset. Changes in your perspective. Changes in your faith. Changes in your character. Little by little. Day by day. Moment by moment. Even during the seasons when you believed you were standing still, you were growing. Even during the seasons when you thought nothing was changing, you were changing. Even during the seasons when you felt forgotten, I was working more closely than ever. My child, one of the enemy's greatest lies is convincing people that waiting means failure. That if something has not happened yet, it never will. That if a promise takes time, it must not be real. But the truth is that some of the most powerful things I create require time. Great trees require time. Strong foundations require time. Lasting faith requires time. And the calling I placed upon your life was never something ordinary. That is why your preparation could not be ordinary. The greater the assignment, the deeper the preparation. The greater the responsibility, the longer the training. The greater the impact, the stronger the foundation must become. What felt like delay was often development. What felt like stagnation was often strengthening. What felt like silence was often instruction. You were learning things that could not be taught any other way. And one day, you will look back at this season with different eyes. You will realize that the waiting did not stop your story. The waiting shaped your story. You will realize that the delay did not destroy your future. The delay protected your future. You will realize that the closed doors were not evidence of rejection. They were evidence of direction. Because every door I closed prevented you from settling for less than what I intended. Every redirection served a purpose. Every interruption served a purpose. Every setback served a purpose. Even the things that made no sense at the time, even the events that caused confusion, even the moments that left you questioning everything, I was still working. I was still guiding. I was still preparing. And now, my child, something important is beginning to happen. The season of hidden preparation is moving toward a season of visible results. The roots are becoming strong enough to support growth. The foundation is becoming strong enough to support expansion. The lessons are becoming valuable enough to support promotion. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are closer than you think, closer than you were last year, closer than you were last month, closer than you were yesterday. And before we continue, I want you to make a declaration of faith if this message is speaking to your heart. Type, I trust God's timing. Because in the next part of this message, I want to reveal something many people never realize until it is too late. The very people who thought your silence meant weakness were completely misunderstanding what was actually happening behind the scenes. My child, there is something that many people misunderstood about your life, something they observed from a distance. Something they thought they understood, but they were seeing only the surface. They saw your silence, and they assumed you had given up. They saw you step back, and they assumed you had lost your confidence. They saw you disappear from certain places, and they assumed you had nothing left to offer. But they were wrong, because silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes silence is healing. Sometimes silence is growth. And sometimes silence is the place where I do my greatest work. You see, the world celebrates visibility. It celebrates noise. It celebrates constant activity. People are taught that if they are not being noticed, they are falling behind. If they are not being praised, they are failing. If they are not moving quickly, they are losing. But my kingdom does not operate according to those rules. Some of the most important seasons in a person's life happen away from the spotlight, away from recognition, away from applause, away from public attention. Because growth often requires privacy. A seed does not grow on top of the soil. It grows underneath it. Roots do not develop in front of an audience. They develop in hidden places. And the strongest foundations are built where few people ever look. That is why your quiet season was necessary. I needed you away from certain distractions, away from certain influences, away from certain voices, because there were things I wanted to teach you that could only be learned in stillness. Lessons about trust. Lessons about patience. Lessons about identity. Lessons about faith when no evidence exists. Many people claim to trust me when everything is working, but true faith is developed when nothing appears to be happening. True faith grows when prayers seem unanswered. True faith grows when the road ahead remains unclear. True faith grows when you continue walking without knowing exactly where the path leads. And that is what has been happening within you, even when you felt uncertain, even when you felt discouraged, even when you wondered whether your efforts mattered. I was building something stronger than success. I was building faith, because success can disappear. Money can disappear. Opportunities can disappear. The approval of people can disappear. But faith rooted deeply in me can survive any storm. My child, there were moments when you thought you were losing ground. Moments when you compared yourself to others. Moments when you watched people move ahead while you remained in the same place. And if you are honest, there were times you questioned whether you had fallen behind. But what if the comparison was never accurate? What if the people you envied were running races they were never meant to win? What if the opportunities you thought you missed were never truly meant for you? What if what looked like progress from the outside was actually leading them away from their purpose? You cannot judge your journey by comparing it to someone else's timeline, because I am not writing the same story for everyone. I have given each person a different assignment, a different path, a different purpose, and a different process. That means your preparation will not look like theirs. Your growth will not look like theirs. Your timing will not look like theirs. And that is okay. Because I am not asking you to become someone else. I am preparing you to become who I created you to be. The enemy wanted your silence to become isolation, but instead, it became preparation. The enemy wanted your waiting to become hopelessness, but instead, it became endurance. The enemy wanted your setbacks to become permanent defeat, but instead, they became training grounds. What he intended for destruction, I transformed into development. What he intended to weaken you, I used to strengthen you. What he intended to stop you, I used to prepare you. And now something remarkable is happening. The same season that once felt empty is beginning to reveal its purpose. The same silence that once felt painful is beginning to reveal its value. The same waiting that once felt endless is beginning to reveal its reward. Because what has been developing beneath the surface is stronger than anyone realizes. Stronger than your critics realize. Stronger than your doubters realize. Stronger even than you realize. The version of you that is emerging from this season is not the same person who entered it. You have learned too much. You have survived too much. You have grown too much. And soon, the evidence of that growth will become impossible to ignore. The people who thought nothing was happening will suddenly notice the change. The people who assumed your story had stalled will begin to see movement. The people who counted you out will wonder what happened. But my child, it was not sudden. It was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the result of everything I have been doing behind the scenes all along. And in the next part of this message, I want to reveal something that should fill your heart with hope. Because there are blessings already moving toward you right now, blessings that were set in motion long before you ever saw the first sign of them. My child, there is something I need you to understand today. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean nothing is moving. Just because you cannot see evidence does not mean I am not working. Just because the answer has not appeared does not mean it is not already on its way. Too often, people assume that reality begins when they can finally see it. But many of the most important things I do begin long before they become visible. A harvest begins before the first fruit appears. A sunrise begins before the sky changes color. A breakthrough begins before circumstances reveal it. And right now, there are things moving in your life that you cannot yet fully recognize. Doors are being aligned. Conversations are taking place. Opportunities are developing. People are being positioned. Lessons are reaching completion. Pieces are coming together, not by accident, not by luck, but according to a purpose greater than you can currently see. The challenge is that human beings often judge their future by their present circumstances. If today looks difficult, they assume tomorrow will be difficult. If today's door is closed, they assume all doors will remain closed. If today's prayer appears unanswered, They assume the answer is never coming. But my child, your current situation is not the final chapter. It is only a moment within the story. And moments change. Seasons change. Circumstances change. Lives change. I have changed situations that appeared impossible. I have opened doors nobody thought could open. I have created opportunities where none seemed to exist. I have brought restoration where people expected permanent loss. And I have not changed. The same power that worked before is still working now. The same faithfulness that carried you yesterday is carrying you today. The same hand that guided you through previous storms is guiding you through this one. That is why I do not want you to lose heart simply because you cannot yet see the outcome. Many people quit too soon. Many people stop believing one step before the breakthrough. Many people walk away just before the answer arrives. Do not make that mistake. Do not allow temporary discouragement to steal permanent blessings. Do not allow visible delays to convince you that invisible progress is not happening, because some of the most important developments in your life are occurring beyond your field of vision. My child, there are prayers you prayed months ago that are still producing results. There are tears you shed that I have not forgotten. There are moments when you cried out to me in private, believing nobody understood. I heard every word. I saw every tear. I noticed every moment of faith. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was ignored. Nothing was forgotten. The world may overlook small acts of faithfulness. I do not. The world may ignore silent perseverance. I do not. The world may fail to appreciate your efforts. I do not. And because I see what others miss, I reward differently than the world rewards. People reward appearances. I reward faithfulness. People reward popularity. I reward obedience. People reward performance. I reward perseverance. That is why some of the greatest blessings arrive in the lives of people who felt overlooked. Because I was never overlooking them. I was preparing them. My child, there are things happening right now that will make sense only when viewed from the future. Today, they appear confusing. Tomorrow, they will appear purposeful. Today, they appear random. Tomorrow, they will reveal a pattern. Today, they appear disconnected. Tomorrow, they will fit together perfectly. One day you will look back and realize that events you thought were unrelated were actually connected all along. The delay connected to the opportunity. The disappointment connected to the blessing. The detour connected to the destination. The pain connected to the purpose. You simply could not see the connection while you were living through it, and that is why trust matters. Trust allows you to continue walking when understanding has not yet arrived. Trust allows you to keep believing when evidence remains limited. Trust allows you to move forward even when the entire picture remains hidden. My child, you do not need to know every detail of the journey. You only need to know who is leading it. You do not need to understand every delay. You only need to remember that I am still in control. You do not need to predict every outcome. You only need to remain faithful in the present moment. Because while you are worrying about tomorrow, I am already there. While you are wondering how things will work out, I am already arranging what comes next. While you are questioning whether the breakthrough is coming, I am already preparing the conditions for it. And this is why the enemy has worked so hard to keep you discouraged. Because discouragement clouds vision. Discouragement weakens expectation. Discouragement makes people abandon what they are closest to receiving. The enemy wants you focused on what has not happened. I want you focused on what is already being prepared. The enemy wants you focused on what you lost. I want you focused on what is still possible. The enemy wants you focused on closed doors. I want you focused on the doors that are about to open. Because, my child, whether you realize it or not, this season is changing. Not someday, not eventually. It is already changing. The ground beneath your feet is shifting. The preparation is nearing completion. The lessons have produced growth. The waiting has produced strength. The hidden work is beginning to approach a visible stage. And soon, people who only judged what they could see will discover that something much greater was happening behind the scenes the entire time. But before that happens, there is one final truth you must understand. Because the greatest transformation that occurred during this season was not around you, it was within you. And once you understand that, You will never view your journey the same way again. My child, before I change your circumstances, I often change you. Before I elevate your position, I strengthen your character. Before I expand your influence, I deepen your faith. And that is exactly what has been happening during this season. For so long, you have been focused on what has not changed around you. The opportunity that has not arrived. The door that has not opened. The answer that has not appeared. The breakthrough that seems delayed. But today, I want you to look somewhere else. I want you to look within. Because if you compare who you are today with the person you were when this season began, you will notice something remarkable. You are not the same person anymore. You have been transformed, not all at once, not in ways that were immediately obvious, but little by little, day after day, challenge after challenge. You have become stronger, not because life became easier, but because you learned how to endure. You have become wiser, not because every decision was perfect, but because every mistake taught you something valuable. You have become more compassionate, because pain taught you how to understand the struggles of others. You have become more patient, because waiting taught you what instant gratification never could. You have become more dependent on me, because certain battles forced you to discover that your own strength was not enough. My child, the person who entered this season would not have been able to handle the responsibilities I am preparing for you now. The person who entered this season might have given up under pressure, might have become distracted by success, might have been controlled by fear, might have relied too heavily on the approval of others. But that person is no longer here. You have changed. You have grown. You have matured. And although the process was painful, it was necessary, because what I am building requires a stronger foundation. Think about all the things that no longer affect you the way they once did. The criticism that once crushed you. The rejection that once defined you. The disappointments that once convinced you to stop trying. The fears that once kept you awake at night. They may still appear from time to time, but they no longer have the same power over you. Why? Because you have been growing. Because you have been changing. Because I have been working within you. The enemy wanted to use this season to break your confidence. Instead, it built resilience. The enemy wanted to use this season to destroy your faith. Instead, it deepened your faith. The enemy wanted to use this season to make you quit. Instead, it taught you how to persevere. What looked like a setback became training. What looked like a loss became preparation. What looked like an obstacle became development. My child, many people spend their lives asking me to change their circumstances while resisting the changes I want to make within them. They want new opportunities without new discipline. They want greater blessings without greater wisdom. They want promotion without preparation. But you have been going through the preparation. You have been learning the lessons. You have been developing the qualities that will allow you to sustain what is coming. That is why this season has not been wasted. Nothing was wasted. Not the tears. Not the prayers. Not the disappointments. Not the delays. Not even the mistakes. I have been weaving everything together for a purpose greater than you can currently see. Even your failures have taught you things success never could. Even your struggles have revealed strengths you never knew you possessed. Even your setbacks have redirected you toward paths that better align with your purpose. My child, one day you will understand that the greatest blessing of this season was not what happened around you. It was what happened inside you. Because circumstances can change overnight, but inner transformation lasts. Money can come and go. Positions can come and go. Recognition can come and go. But wisdom remains. Character remains. Faith remains. And those are the treasures I have been building within you. That is why I need you to stop seeing yourself through the lens of your current circumstances. You are not defined by what you have lost. You are not defined by what has been delayed. You are not defined by what others think about you. You are defined by who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is stronger than you realize, wiser than you realize, more prepared than you realize, closer than you realize. The people around you may still see the old version of you, the struggling version, the uncertain version, the wounded version. But I see something different. I see someone who kept going when quitting would have been easier. I see someone who kept believing when doubt seemed justified. I see someone who continued walking even when the path was unclear. I see someone who has survived battles that others know nothing about, and because of that, you are far stronger than you give yourself credit for. My child, there is a reason I have brought you this far. There is a reason I did not allow you to give up. There is a reason I sustained you through every difficult season. Because your story is not ending here. In many ways, it is only beginning. The transformation within you has prepared you for what comes next. The lessons have prepared you. The growth has prepared you. The waiting has prepared you. And very soon, the same people who only saw your struggle are going to witness something they never expected. They are going to see the evidence of everything I have been doing behind the scenes. Because the season of hidden preparation is moving toward a season of visible fulfillment. And in the next part of this message, I want to reveal why those who doubted your future are about to be completely surprised by what I do next. My child, there is something that often happens before a major shift, something many people fail to recognize until it has already begun. For a long time, it appears as though nothing is changing. The days seem ordinary. The circumstances look familiar. The challenges remain present. And because everything appears the same on the surface, people assume tomorrow will look exactly like yesterday. But then, suddenly, everything changes. Not because the change happened overnight, but because the preparation finally became visible. The harvest did not appear in a single day. The roots had been growing for months. The building did not appear in a single day. The foundation had been laid long before anyone saw the structure. And in the same way, what is coming into your life has been developing for far longer than you realize. That is why I want you to stop interpreting your current situation as permanent. Your present circumstances are not permanent. Your current limitations are not permanent. Your present season is not permanent. Seasons change, and this season is changing too. My child, there are people who have already made up their minds about you. People who believe they know your future. People who believe they understand your limits. People who assume they have seen the best you will ever become. But they are making a mistake. Because they are judging your future based on your past. They are judging your potential based on your current position. They are judging your destiny based on temporary circumstances. And temporary circumstances have never had the authority to define your future. Think about how many times people underestimated what I could do. They underestimated the shepherd boy. They underestimated the dreamer. They underestimated the prisoner. They underestimated the fisherman. Again and again, people focused on appearances while I focused on purpose. Human eyes often see limitations. I see possibilities. Human eyes see obstacles. I see opportunities. Human eyes see what is. I see what can become. And my child, there is far more within you than many people realize. Far more strength, far more wisdom, far more resilience, far more purpose. The struggles you endured were not creating weakness. They were revealing strength. The waiting was not producing failure. It was producing endurance. The disappointments were not destroying your future. They were refining it. That is why those who judged you too quickly are going to be surprised. Not because you suddenly become someone different, but because they never truly understood who you were becoming. They saw the battle. They never saw the training. They saw the delay. They never saw the development. They saw the silence. They never saw the preparation. And now the preparation is beginning to produce visible results, little by little, step by step, door by door, opportunity by opportunity. The evidence is coming, not because you forced it, not because you manipulated circumstances, but because everything grows according to its season. A flower does not bloom before its time. A harvest does not arrive before its season, and neither will the plans I have for you. My timing may not always match your expectations, but my timing is never accidental. There were things that needed to happen first, lessons that needed to be learned, strength that needed to be developed, foundations that needed to be built. And now many of those foundations are in place. That is why I need you to remain faithful during this final stretch. Because many people become discouraged when they are closest to breakthrough. They become tired when they are closest to relief. They become doubtful when they are closest to understanding. Do not allow that to happen. Do not let weariness convince you that nothing is changing. Do not let temporary frustration convince you that the story is over. Do not let visible delays make you forget invisible progress. My child, if you could see everything I am arranging behind the scenes, your fear would turn into expectation. Your anxiety would turn into peace. Your doubt would turn into confidence. You would understand that what appears delayed is often being carefully aligned. You would understand that closed doors are sometimes protecting greater opportunities. You would understand that unanswered questions do not mean absent guidance. I have been leading you even when you could not see the path. I have been protecting you even when you did not recognize the danger. I have been preparing you even when you thought nothing was happening. And now, because of everything this season has produced within you, you are ready to carry what comes next in a way you could not have before. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are more mature. You are more grounded. You are more prepared. And that preparation is about to matter, because the next season is not simply about proving your doubters wrong. It is not about revenge. It is not about showing off your success. It is about stepping fully into the purpose for which I have been preparing you all along. The people who doubted you may be surprised. The people who underestimated you may be shocked. The people who counted you out may not understand what happened. But the truth is simple. What they are about to witness is not a sudden miracle. It is the visible result of years of hidden preparation. It is the fruit of everything I have been doing behind the scenes. And my child, the most beautiful part of your story is still ahead, because in the next part of this message I want to speak directly about what you must do now to remain aligned with the blessing, the opportunity, and the purpose that are moving closer with every passing day. Before you leave, type, "My breakthrough is coming." If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.